Now, Long Island's largest radio news team brings you the Associated Press award-winning program, Newsline.
Coming up on Newsline, Wednesday, April 4th, 2018.
China imposes tariffs.
Trump shows no signs of backing down from this conflict.
And an update on the Mangano and Venditto trial.
In business, stocks receive a scare from the threat of tariffs, and Facebook makes some important changes to their privacy policy. I'm Nathan Lockman, and all of those stories and more coming up later in the broadcast.
In entertainment, Wonder Woman Linda Carter gets a Hollywood star, and Beyoncé and Jay-Z celebrate 10 years as a couple. For Newsline, I'm Ava Mandel, and I'll have those stories and more coming up later in the broadcast.
In sports, the Mets and Yankees are both finishing up their respective series in the Big Apple this afternoon, and RG3 is the newest Baltimore Raven. I'm Andrew Murdillo, and I'll have all that and more coming up in your sports break.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Zolkowski.
And I'm Joe Sibilia. We begin tonight's broadcast in Washington. China has put $50 billion of tariffs on U.S. goods as their trade dispute with America escalates. The items including soybeans, planes, cars, whiskey, and chemicals. Investors are wondering if this large-scale dispute is going to turn into a full-scale trade war between two economic titans. China has retaliated on threats by the Trump administration today to put $50 billion worth of tariffs on Chinese goods. Foreign Ministry spokesman Greg Shuang noted that China wanted to resolve the trade dispute through negotiations. He also said that the United States did not take opportunities for a diplomatic solution.
President Trump showed no signs of backing down today. Farmers' groups went to the U.S. Chambers of Commerce to voice their displeasure. Former Senator Max Baucus, the co-chair of the Farmers for Free Trade, said the Chinese tariffs will hurt harvesters, processors, truck drivers, rail workers, and Main Street businesses. Baucus served as former President Obama's ambassador to China and urged America to reconsider the tariffs. In late March, the U.S. imposed steel and aluminum tariffs of $3 billion. On Monday, China responded with $3 billion in tariffs on pork and fruit. The White House went ahead with tariffs yesterday that targeted manufacturing technology, arguing that Chinese trade practices have unfairly hurt U.S. business. It remains to be seen whether or not Trump will go through with these tariffs as announced. Christine McDaniel, economist and former White House trade advisor, hopes there will be compromise.
While there has been a lot of heated rhetoric, I'm hopeful that this will just bring both sides to the table and they'll be able to address some of these real concerns. President Trump and his administration, certainly not the first administration to raise these concerns, but they are the first to address them in such an assertive way.
McDaniel says there will be no winners if there's a trade war.
If a broader trade war were to materialize, it would be a lose-lose-lose, right? A loss for U.S., a loss for China, and a loss for the world economy. Remember, China and the U.S. together are 40%, nearly 40% of the world economy.
Restaurateur Harendra Singh was back on the stand for the 12th day in the federal corruption trial of former Nassau County Executive Edward Mangano, Linda Mangano, and former Oyster Bay Supervisor John Venditto. Singh testified that the town of Oyster Bay was willing to do whatever he wanted. The defense attorney for Venditto sought to show that his client wasn't key to the town-guaranteed loans that Singh secured. Mark Agnefello of Manhattan questioned Singh about the forgery of Venditto's signature on an amendment to a concession agreement. Singh was asked about meeting with then-deputy town attorney Frederick May and Singh comptroller Salvatore Russo in August 2010 at Singh's H.R. Singleton's restaurant in Bethpage to sign the document. Singh said when he noticed that key language was missing, May told him to sign it himself. Singh quoted May of saying, "Just have someone sign it," adding that he asked Russo to forge Venditto's signature. Agnefello asked Singh if he was concerned that he was getting his employee involved in a serious crime. Singh responded, "At the time, I didn't pay attention."
Coming up after your Newsline business report, DWI charges after a fatal crash in Lawrence, and a Suffolk couple is found dead. But first, your live and local traffic and weather update. WRHU News Time is 5:34.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
We're caught in a jam on the Southern State Parkway heading eastbound between exit 27 Wantagh State Parkway and and exit 28 Route 135 Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. The brakes are pumping moving eastbound from exit 32 Route 110 to exit 37 Belmont Avenue. Over to the rails. All lines of the LIRR are in good service and on or close to schedule. Up in the sky. There are low-volume departure delays at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark airports due to gate holds and taxi delays, but please check with your carrier before heading out. It's currently 53 degrees and cloudy outside our studios in Hempstead. Expect temperatures to drop to a cool 45. And grab a jacket before you leave tomorrow. Expect sun throughout the morning and gusty wind during the afternoon with a high of 46 and a low of 35. With your Newsline traffic and weather update, I'm Jordan Sawyer, and I'll be back with another update coming up later in the broadcast.
Newsline Business News.
The stock market had quite a scare earlier today. The Dow was down by as much as 500 points early on before recovering and finishing up strong. The tension in the market seems to be a reaction to the escalating dialogue between the U.S. and China over trade tariffs. China announced plans to place a 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of American exports that include planes, cars, and chemicals. These plans were in response to an American proposition that called for tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods. Facebook is making some changes to their privacy settings following their recent data breach. The media giant is not actually changing any of the data it collects. Instead, it is making it clear as to what data it is actually collecting. One of the new sections explains how in certain instances, Facebook collects information on call logs and text histories, but not on information on the specific content within those communications. Facebook made it clear that its subsidiaries, WhatsApp and Instagram, follow the same policy. Tomorrow is the last day for customers to redeem Toys R Us gift cards. Bed Bath & Beyond is offering 64 cents for every dollar of any Toys R Us or Babies R Us gift cards. The gift cards must have a balance of at least $20. All the information can be found on the Bed Bath & Beyond website. And now for your closing numbers. It was a good day on the market. The Dow Jones rose 232 to 24,265 points. The Nasdaq increased by 101 points to end at 7,042. And finally, the S&P was up by 30 to end at 2,645. For Newsline Business, I'm Nathan Lockman.
The WRHU news time is 5:36. Police say 2 people are dead and 5 are injured after an early morning multi-vehicle crash in Lawrence. The accident happened on Nassau Expressway at the intersection of Rockaway Turnpike just after 1:30 a.m. According to police, 2 people have been arrested for DWI and are among those injured. Police say a total of 5 cars and 9 people were involved in the accident. Nassau Expressway was closed both ways between Burnside Avenue and Bay Boulevard due to the accident investigation.
Suffolk police have identified the husband and wife found dead of gunshot wounds inside a Holbrook home. Police discovered the bodies of Stephen and Susan Cupper yesterday afternoon after their worried daughter called 911. The couple was found in the basement of their home on Patchogue Holbrook Road. Detective Lieutenant Kevin Breyer said police do not suspect anyone other than the couple could have been involved. The circumstance of how they received gunshots is under investigation, whether it was a suicide pact or murder-suicide. Police say the 69-year-old husband and 56-year-old wife suffered from undisclosed health problems.
Hofstra University will host senior editor of The Atlantic and former George W. Bush speechwriter David Frum tomorrow. WRHU's news director Kimberly Donahue spoke with Frum about his latest release, Trumpocracy, the corruption of the American Republic, to find out why young people should be educated in Trumpocracy and how to navigate the changing media landscape.
What do you think the future of journalism should look like, especially given all of the attacks on the media by Trump and the changing landscape?
I think that the most important thing to say about the future of journalism is the distinction between journalism and non-journalism is vanishing. In the olden days, which lasted until the late 1990s, you had these local monopoly companies that controlled the ability to tell people that turkeys were on sale at Safeway. And because of their control of local advertising, these companies were hugely profitable. They faced very little competition. It was very hard starting a newspaper was hard, starting a TV station way harder. And so they had super profits within local monopolies, and if they were owned by public-spirited people, they could invest in local coverage. And so journalism became not just a career, but almost a profession. You would enter as a young person. There was a clearly established way up. Started covering school board at a local paper, and if you did a good job, you worked your way up and up and up. And at the end of 30 years, there you were on the Gronskin Company or Washington Weekend Review pontificating to a semi-napping nation. And then you retired and collected your pension. So that world is gone. Anybody with a smartphone is a journalist, or could be. has the capacity to record a piece of reality that is more powerful than any recording that Walter Cronkite ever made in his heyday. And so that creates a world in which it's both possible to show people truths they never saw. I mean, the inside of a school shooting, we can see that. But it's also possible to deceive people on a scale they have never been deceived before.
You are speaking at Hofstra University to discuss your book. Why should young people specifically understand the subjects you talk about in your book, as well as the future of what news is?
When you're young, it's very natural to take for granted the world that you know as having always been there and likely always to be there. But we're living in a world of really rapid change, both in the areas of information and in the strength of our democracy. It is, if you are 20, it's very possible you could live the second half of your life in a country in which you have many fewer rights than your parents knew, and a country in which your vote counts for a lot less. Not that elections will ever end, but they have elections in Hungary, too. They just don't matter very much. You could live in that country. Or you could live in a country in which prosperity is rising, more people feel included, which is adapting to real problems, in which scientific knowledge is integrated into political decision-making, and whether you live in the one country or the other is going to be decided over probably the next few years. And if you're over, I would have said over 20, but after Parkland, I would say if you're over 15, you can have an enormous potential impact on the country evolves in positive directions and negative directions, and you will be living with them a lot longer than I will be because I'm 57.
Trumpocracy, the corruption of the American Republic, is available now. For WRHU News, I'm Kimberly Donahue.
We'll be talking more with senior editor of The Atlantic and former George W. Bush speechwriter David Frum on upcoming editions of Newsline. You can hear the full conversation with Frum on Friday's edition of Hofstra's Morning Wake-Up Call.
Entry to Port Authority was temporarily shut off at 8th Avenue this morning when police found an unidentified white substance. The South Wing pedestrian entrance was closed for investigation following the discovery of the substance. The chaos was all for naught. As it turns out, the substance was used to clean the side of the building by a custodian.
A family is demanding answers from a bus company after a 6-year-old boy was left on a bus for 5 hours nearly 3 weeks ago. Dominic Shaplinsky, who has autism and ADHD, was picked up by the bus 2 hours late at 4:30 p.m. during the day of the incident and finally got home around 9:30 that night. The family of the young boy was trying to track him down, even resorting to police at one point. The company responsible, New Dawn Transit, said the driver was a substitute and got lost.
A program on Long Island has begun to offset an anti-Muslim online campaign. Nassau religious and political leaders held a news conference yesterday with Muslims, Christians, and Jews speaking out at a Mineola Supreme Court. They called for respect and understanding. Nassau County officials say this anti-Muslim campaign seems less of a threat in the United States, but is being monitored closely here. At yesterday's Nassau County news conference, love, harmony, and peace with Muslims was urged. This was in reaction to leaflets distributed in London last month. It included an anti-Islam campaign for violence against Muslims.
A man accused of killing his stepdaughter in Queens is set to face a judge. Mark Jenkins is expected to be arraigned on second-degree murder and assault charges in connection with the death of 3-year-old Bella Edwards. Jenkins was found performing CPR on Bella when police arrived on Monday evening. The medical examiner determined the child had extensive bruising on her body and signs of alleged sexual abuse. The Jenkins family had no previous history with the Administration for Children's Services. Mark Jenkins faces up to 25 years to life in prison if convicted.
It's St. Baldrick's Day today. You might ask, who was St. Baldrick? But you'll be surprised to know it's a fictional character, the brainchild of a Hofstra University grad, Tom Costo. He launched the charity 10 years ago.
The ending event of a group of people who have been raising money for the last couple of months for children's cancer research and treatment. And then on St. Baldrick's Day, everybody who's raised money shaves their head in solidarity with those who typically lose their hair during treatment. Again, it's a sign of solidarity, but it's also a nice celebration for all the funds that were raised, and it raises a lot of awareness, because then as everybody walks around with a bald head, people will ask you, well, why did you shave your head? And you can tell them why.
Costo says the charity has raised almost $200 million.
The money goes to St. Baldrick's Foundation, and then they use it to help kids who have cancer with treatment. They help kids with cancer who are recovering, and it goes towards lots of scientific grants to research children's cancer, because 96% of cancer is researched and funded by the government looking into the adult cancer. So there's a funding gap when it comes to children's cancer. So St. Baldrick's Foundation puts all the money that they raise to try and fill that gap.
That's Tom Costo, the founder of St. Baldrick's Day.
Coming up after your Newsline entertainment report, an update on the YouTube shooter's motive, and Trump and the Democrats clash over the tax bill. But first, your traffic report.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
There's high-volume traffic on the Southern State Parkway heading eastbound between exit 27 Wantagh State Parkway and exit 28 Route 135 Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. Cars are coming to a halt moving eastbound from exit 32 Route 110 to exit 37 Belmont Avenue. Over to the rails. All lines in the LIRR are in good service and on or close to schedule. Up with the birds. There are low-volume departure delays at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark airports due to gate holds and taxi delays. But please check with your carrier before heading out. With your Newsline traffic update, I'm Jordan Sawyer, and I'll be back with a final update later in the broadcast.
Newsline. Entertainment.
The original actress to play Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame yesterday. Carter's award comes after her most famous superhero character enjoyed a silver screen revival in 2017. The character of Wonder Woman first appeared in DC Comics in 1941 and was brought to life by Carter in 1976. Her character is seen as the forerunner to the empowered heroines that are taking the starring role in Hollywood today. In other news, a decade ago today, Jay-Z and Beyoncé were wed in front of their family and friends. Their wedding formalized a romance that had long been rumored by the public since 2002. Following Jay-Z's 2002 single, 03 Bonnie and Clyde, which featured Beyoncé, the singer's friendship evolved into a much deeper relationship. Their 2003 platinum hit, Crazy in Love, eliminated any doubt that the two were not officially a couple. The two used their music to express their love for each other and as an outlet for the hard times in their relationship. Following Jay-Z's infidelity, Beyoncé released her 2016 album Lemonade, and Jay-Z released his 2017 follow-up album 444. However, Jay-Z and Beyoncé were able to move past the complications in their relationship to focus on their family and renew their vows. The Carters welcomed Blue Ivy in 2012 and twins Rumi and Sir in 2017, marking a new chapter in their relationship. Beyoncé and Jay-Z are currently preparing for their second tour together, On the Run 2, which is set to kick off in June. For Newsline Entertainment, I'm Ava Mandel.
WRHU News Time is 5:47. Relatives of the suspect in yesterday's shooting at YouTube headquarters in California says they told police about her vendetta against the company and warned them she might do something. 39-year-old Nasim Najee Agharem of San Diego allegedly opened fire at the tech giant's Bay Area headquarters, injuring 3 people before killing herself, according to police. Authorities say the shooting victims did not have any connections to the suspect.
At this point, we have no indication that she was selecting individuals to fire at. Whether that means she was firing randomly or not, we still have to work through that. But there's absolutely no link or relationship that we've identified between our suspect and anybody who was at the scene at the time of the incident. At this point in the investigation, it is believed that the suspect was upset with policies and practices of YouTube. This appears to be the motive of for this incident.
The shooter's family says she developed a vendetta against YouTube after a change in its filtering policy caused her to lose followers. Agharem's family said she was a passionate vegan activist and often posted videos about animal cruelty. Agharem also had a website with a manifesto that targeted YouTube for demonetizing her videos and cutting off her ad revenue. Agharem had embedded videos from other content creators who also complained YouTube's new advertising policy caused them to lose traffic, subscribers, and ad revenue. Agharem's brother said his family reported her missing over the weekend when she disappeared and stopped answering phone calls.
The White House is looking to slash funding from the recently approved spending package. Democrats have accused the White House of backing out of a done deal. Legislative Affairs Director Mark Short confirmed the White House and congressional leaders are considering ways to rescind parts of the spending deal. The last time Congress approved any recessions was nearly 20 years ago under President Bill Clinton. Budget experts doubt that the White House will be successful. Introducing a recession could create massive problems for lawmakers who spent weeks trying to come to a bipartisan agreement.
The Bill Cosby trial rages on in Norristown, Pennsylvania. The disgraced comedian's defense team made an accusation against the prosecution, specifically that the prosecutors are keeping older white males off the jury in this, his sexual assault retrial. Such an accusation devolved into argument on the courtroom. The judge said he was unlikely to side with Cosby's lawyers, according to CNN. The first trial for Cosby ended with with a deadlocked jury and a mistrial.
Today marks the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Many remember Dr. King for his I Have a Dream speech and his peaceful approach to dealing with the numerous problems that have plagued our country. But today we reflect on how his message still has an impact on us today. Former President Bill Clinton spoke on how Dr. King's methods are instilled in our society.
His call for dangerous unselfishness captured the spirit of an America struggling to fulfill its promise of freedom and of a democracy yet to honor all its citizens. 50 years later, we're still pushing for that more perfect union.
Dr. King strived to make sure every American had the same rights and that all could live together as one. While progress has been made to make sure Dr. King's dream could come true, we should all take a moment to view where we stand now. We should also wonder how much more Dr. King could have accomplished and what other issues he would have fought to make right. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy will remain in the hearts of Americans forever.
For your ears only on Newsline, here's a sneak preview of Joe Sibilia's upcoming interview with Geraldo Rivera.
In terms of the allegations of sexual harassment, the Me Too movement has been very, very important in our society. I think that it really fulfilled and is fulfilling a vital function in terms of revealing this infrequently mentioned open secret of how superiors have been abusing subordinate, usually men, female, in not only broadcasting or journalism, but Hollywood, obviously, politics, obviously, and in many, many businesses throughout the country, including on Long Island. So I think it's fulfilled a vital function that feel as if they must be true given the facts and circumstances as we know them. And there are others that are just, someone's word against the other person, and often many years after the fact with no corroborating evidence. And, it's like the Red Scare back in the 1950s. The mere accusation that you're a communist wrecked your career in Hollywood forever. That's, I think, is happening to a certain extent. There needs to be prudence. There needs to be process. There needs to be fairness in this whole movement that's going on right now.
Well spoken, Geraldo. I agree with you 100% on that.
Tune in to Hofstra's Morning Wake-Up Call with Joe Sibilia tomorrow morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. to hear the full interview with Geraldo Rivera.
President Donald Trump agreed to keep U.S. troops in Syria to try and defeat ISIS, a senior administration official says. According to the official, president, quote, wasn't thrilled about it. Defense Secretary James Mattis and other top officials made the case that the fight against ISIS was almost finished, but a complete withdrawal of U.S. forces at the time would risk losing U.S. gains. Mattis told the president the Pentagon was already reducing the number of U.S. forces in Syria, but there is no time to frame for a complete removal of troops. The official said Trump wants other countries in the region to help fund the country's reconstruction. In a statement Wednesday, the White House said the U.S. mission in Syria was coming to a rapid end.
The number of Facebook users whose personal data may have been shared with Cambridge Analytica has risen from 50 million to 87 million. This newfound information came today in a Facebook release which detailed its other plans to restrict data access and following CEO Mark Zuckerberg agreeing to testify before a House panel. Zuckerberg is expected to testify in person April 11. Lawmakers want Zuckerberg to explain reports regarding Cambridge Analytica's alleged misuse of data from Facebook profiles. Cambridge Analytica has said it did not know the data was improperly obtained by a third party. The company also said it did not use the data in its work with the Trump campaign. In the meantime, the Federal Trade Commission has started an investigation to find if Facebook violated a 2011 consent decree it signed with the FTC, which guaranteed user privacy.
Today, Maya Angelou would have turned 90 years old. Angelou is known for her literary work that brought sexual assault into the national conversation. Angelou wrote about her experiences long before the Me Too and Time's Up movements began. Angelou was also San Francisco's first female African-American cable car conductor because, as she told Oprah, she, quote, loved the uniforms. She was also one of the first African-American female members in the Directors Guild of America. She joined after writing Georgia, Georgia, a film about an interracial romance. She was the second poet ever to read an original work at a presidential inauguration. She was picked by President Bill Clinton. Angelou won 3 Grammy Awards for spoken word albums.
A U.S. woman is suing a former fertility doctor after claiming the doctor used his own sperm to help conceive her. After Kelly Rottweiler discovered her DNA did not match her father from an Ancestry.com test, she discovered Gerald Mortimer, the doctor who delivered her was the one who matched her DNA. The reasons for the doctor's DNA match was because Rottweiler's parents had trouble conceiving and underwent a procedure to help them conceive. Her parents said that they would not have undergone the procedure if they had known about the doctor's actions.
Coming up, your final WRHU traffic and weather update. But first, your WRHU sports update. It's 5:55 WRHU News Time.
Sports update.
With your Newsline Sports Break, I'm Andrew Merdolo. The New York Islanders are back in action tomorrow night for their home finale against the arch-rival New York Rangers as Matt Barzal looks to continue his hunt for the Calder Trophy. Puck drop is 7 o'clock, and as always, you can listen to all the action live on 88.7 WRHU. The Hofstra Pride men's baseball team currently trails the Manhattan Jaspers 8-3 in the top of the 6th. You can catch all the action live on the alternate stream of the WRHU app or at WRHU.com under the Listen tab. Also, both ends of today's softball doubleheader against Bam have been canceled. Makeup date is to be announced. Looking to the locals, the Mets and Yankees were both in action today as the Mets doubled up the Philadelphia Phillies 4-2 in Queens, while the Yankees defeated the Tampa Bay Rays 7-2 in the Bronx. On the ice tonight, there are 3 games on the NHL docket. The action starts at 7 when the Buffalo Sabres play host to the Ottawa Senators. At the top of the 8 o'clock hour, the Chicago Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues renew their rivalry in St. Louis. And finally, at the top of the 10 o'clock hour, the Minnesota Wild head to California to take on the Anaheim Ducks. We head to the Hardwood where there are several games across the association tonight, including some big-time Eastern Conference action as the Philadelphia 76ers visit the Detroit Pistons at 7 and the Toronto Raptors host the Boston Celtics at 8 o'clock. In the headlines today, the Baltimore Ravens announced the signing of former Browns quarterback Robert Griffin III to a 1-year deal. Despite Griffin's injury history, Coach John Harbaugh told the media today that Griffin looks so great in workouts, how could we not sign him?
Robert came in, had a really good workout, he looked good throwing the ball, he's in very good shape. I'm pretty excited about this player. I'm really feeling like we got a steal.
Sound courtesy of ESPN.com. Griffin sat out last season to take care of his wife and newborn. However, in his 4 seasons prior with the Browns and Redskins, he threw for over 8,900 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 26 interceptions in 42 games. With your Newsline Sports Break, I'm Andrew Merdolo.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
We're caught in a jam on the Sun State Parkway heading eastbound between Belt Parkway and exit 44 Sunrise Highway. The brakes are pumping moving eastbound from exit 32 Route 110 to exit 37 Belmont Avenue. Over to the rails. All lines are on the LIRR are in good service and on or close to schedule. Up in the sky, there are low volume departure delays at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark airports due to gate holds and taxi delays. But please check with your carrier before heading out. And now for your extended forecast. Currently 53 degrees and cloudy outside our studios in Hempstead. Expect temperatures to drop to a cool 45. Grab a jacket before you leave tomorrow. Expect sun throughout the morning and gusty winds during the afternoon with a high of 46 and a low of 35. Break up the umbrellas on Friday. Expect morning showers and evening winds with a high of 57 and a low of 38. And moving into your weekend. Rain and snow are on the way Saturday. The mercury will hit 40 and drop to 31 degrees. The clouds will return Sunday. Expect cloudy skies during the morning and throughout the evening with a high of 43 and a low of 30. Weird Newsline, traffic and weather. I'm Jordan Sawyer.
And that'll do it for tonight's edition of Newsline. Many thanks to the entire WRHU News team. Our engineer this evening is Jenny Goldstein.
Stay tuned for the Rock and Roll Oasis on your 2-time Marconi Award-winning station, 88.7 FM, Radio Hofstra University.
For Newsline, I'm Danielle Zolkowski.
And I'm Joe Sibilia. Thanks for listening, and have a great night.